Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. During a debate at the Oxford Union on a motion accusing Israel of genocide, which was carried by a crushing majority, one speaker described the October the 7th attacks by Hamas as heroism. Some dons at the university have now warned that the debate may have broken the law. The union has released a statement saying that it does not endorse the views of any of the speakers, adding that the union has an unwavering commitment to free speech. Was that principle upheld during the debate? My next guest, a lawyer who's been often on GB News, spoke in that debate, but is now in Israel, from where she joins me now. Natasha Hausdorff, welcome to the programme.
Good morning, Michael. Always good to be with you.
Thank you. May I ask you, first of all, about the atmosphere of the debate? Were the principles of free speech upheld during the debate?
I'm afraid not. And frankly, that statement you just referenced from the Oxford Union is laughable. Not only were we, the speakers, informed that some students had been prevented from accessing the debating chamber, but quite a bit before the debate was due to take place, we were also told that most Jewish students at the university, even union members, were far too intimidated to attend the debate. And as we walked into the chamber to shouts and jeers, it was perfectly clear that the chamber itself had been stacked. I'm minded to say, with supporters of Hamas. And that became clear throughout the debate in terms of the abuse that my fellow speakers were subject to, in terms of the heckling and interruptions. So I have to say the crushing defeat that you've described was in no way a surprise. I think it was very important that I and my fellow speakers were there to call out the falsehoods and really to shine a light on this shocking display where it seemed that the Muslim Brotherhood had in effect taken over the Oxford Union, one of the most illustrious institutions in the United Kingdom, or perhaps previously so.
You were told that Jewish students had not gone because they felt intimidated. Do you have any evidence for that? Anecdotally, have people told you they wished they could have been there, but they felt they could not attend?
Well, I can tell you that I and my fellow speakers for the opposition in this debate had sought to arrange a pre-debate event with the Oxford Israel Society. The leaders of that society were very enthusiastic because they thought that this may encourage otherwise intimidated students to at least come to this event before the debate itself. And departing from usual practice, the union, in fact, refused to allow this student society to book a venue, a room at the union for this purpose. That in and of itself is not perhaps sufficient to indicate the nature of the president's approach to these issues, but taken together with the fact that every attempt was made to no platform the Arab speakers on my team, most importantly, Mossab Hassan Youssef, the son of a Hamas leader who has written a book, The Green Prince, and spoken extensively about his own experiences in the West Bank, and has spoken out very forcefully against the oppressive practices of Hamas as an organization, and also an Israeli Arab speaker, Yosef Haddad, both of whom, not only before the debate was there an attempt to no platform them, but in fact, Yosef Haddad was ejected from the chamber, and Mossab was ordered by the president out of the chamber in the middle of his speech. So this atmosphere of intimidation, of stacking the deck, has been palpable before the debate in the context of the additional event that we sought to organise, and in the course of the debate itself. It is deeply, deeply shocking how far it is that the Oxford Union has fallen.
You said that you and your fellow speakers were heckled. I think that's not uncommon, probably, at the Oxford Union. But I think you said abusively heckled. Did you hear particular things said that were abusive and potentially against the law?
Well, there are a few points to make here. Certainly the first speaker on the opposition, Jonathan Sacherdoti, a Jewish journalist, son of Holocaust survivors, was personally abused in English, and that has been the subject of some of the media reports. The Arab speakers on my team, Mossab and Joseph, were abused viciously in Arabic. It only became apparent to me the content of that particular abuse, not being an Arabic speaker myself, after the debate, that they were called traitors, collaborators. In fact, Mossab confided in me that the nature of that abuse and the threats that were being made to them gave him flashbacks to the time that he was targeted for being a collaborator in the West Bank. So that was deeply shocking, I think, to both of them. They hadn't anticipated that level of abuse in Arabic at the Oxford Union, but also, I'm afraid, reflective of the way that the audience had been stacked for this debate. But your reference to support for terrorism is perhaps the most troubling aspect of this entire episode. I did highlight in my speech that the comments by Miko Peled calling the 7th of October heroic, the brutal, vicious, barbaric rape, slaughter, torture, kidnap of Jews and others on the 7th of October, that is what that individual referred to as heroic. That in and of itself I highlighted as a breach, an offence under Article 12(1)A of the Terrorism Act 2000. I do understand from media reports now that the police and counter-terrorism in particular have been looking into this. But when this was raised, not just by myself, but also by my fellow speaker, Jonathan Sacherdoti, as an offence, and when Jonathan invited the president to call the police into the chamber who were stationed outside for security purposes, he declined. As another form, essentially, of enabling across this university term, unfortunately, the Oxford Union has seen a succession of anti-Semitic hate preachers that have been spreading misinformation as a direct result of this particular president of the union and his desire to make this term essentially one in which support for terror seems to reign at the Oxford Union.
Natasha, if you were invited to go back and speak again at the Oxford Union, would you?
Absolutely. I know that there are many speakers who, when invited to participate in this disgusting affair, declined on principle, not least because the motion itself was particularly offensive. But I think it's extremely important that people like myself are prepared to go into those despicable situations, call out the falsehoods, and stand up for those that don't feel able to attend, and particularly in this case, the Jewish students who were too intimidated to attend. Without our presence there, I don't know if the general public would have been fully informed as to what has transpired, not least because the videos that the Oxford Union have so far put up on their YouTube channel have been censored, so that the full extent of the abuse, the heckling, the threats made in Arabic have been excised from that video evidence, and deeply, deeply disturbingly and shockingly, the speech by Mossab Hassan Youssef has not been put up at all. In fact, a separate audio recording of that been put up outside of the union in its stead. It does seem that the desire by the Oxford Union to no platform to silence these Arab speakers in particular, speaking up for Israel, would otherwise have been successful, because it simply doesn't fit with their identity politics when Arabs are speaking up against the misinformation, against the hatred, the Jew hate in particular, and against the falsehoods that have been otherwise being spread, not just at Oxford, but I'm afraid to say at universities around the world, about the state of Israel.
Natasha Hausdorff, thank you very much for being with us today.